Mike Wazowski dreams of being scary, but everyone makes fun of him and tells him he won't succeed. The end of this movie will really surprise you. Mike Wazowski is a monster, and when he was little, he went on a school trip to Monsters Inc., the company that generates energy from the emotions of frightened children. The monsters employed by the company are responsible for scaring human children to collect the energy that comes from their screams. There, Mike could see his heroes, the scarers. A scarer saw how important this was for Mike, so he gave him the cap he was wearing, which was from the university where he learned to be a scarer, Monsters University. And Mike was dazzled by the scarers and promised himself he would become a... And to achieve this, he had to enter Monsters University. However, Mike is not a scary monster. He's actually a very adorable monster, the opposite of what he needs to achieve his dream. It's like if a man who is 1.6 meters tall wants to dedicate himself to basketball, even though it's not technically important. Impossible. It's going to be really difficult for him to achieve it. Faced with this, no one believes in Mike, but he doesn't let his circumstances limit him. Mike is extremely tenacious and hardworking, and he finally manages to get into Monsters University. But upon arriving, he realizes that fulfilling his dream is going to be much more difficult than he expected. There, Mike meets James Sullivan, a classmate who is truly scary. Unlike Mike, Sulley was indeed born with the physique and with many innate skills that a scarer needs. However, Mike does not give up and works very hard to pass the final exam of the Scarers program. The day of the exam arrives, and despite all his effort, Mike fails to prove to Dean Hardscrabble of the university that he can become a scarer. Mike is expelled from the Scarers program. However, he is not the only one. Hardscrabble also expelled Sulley because, despite having innate talent, he still had a lot to learn, but he refused to make an effort, believing that he already knew everything he needed. Here we start to see that neither innate talent, neither pure hard work can be enough. Even so, Mike longs to achieve his dream and manages to find one last opportunity to fulfill it, participating in the Scare Games. These competitive games are held at Monsters University and are designed for students, but Mike manages to negotiate a deal with the organizers. If his team wins the contest, they will be allowed to return to the Scarers program. However, if they lose, they will be expelled from the university. With this bet at stake, Mike, Sulley and his team enroll, determined to beat the monsters who are truly terrifying and thus prove their capabilities. However, Mike's team has a problem. None, except Sulley, is scary. They are all adorable, sensitive, and polite monsters, far from being the most fearsome scarers on campus. The Uzma Kappa team is pointed out by everyone as the sure loser. But despite all the negative opinions, Uzma Kappa trains, works hard, and manages to reach the final of the Scare Games. By this time, Mike and Sulley had managed to set aside their differences and were becoming great friends. In the final, the two teams face a challenge to scare the simulator of a child. In this test, each team member must prove that he is scary enough to frighten the simulator. Thus, Mike faces his most difficult test. Mike's turn comes, he reads the file about the child. Remember everything he had studied. He plans the best strategy. He scares the child and the child screams uncontrollably. The audience jumps with joy. Mike had achieved the impossible. He was a true scarer. However, when the party is over, Mike approaches the simulator and notices that it was broken, that the simulator's lever had gotten shiny right in Mike's turn. But this was not a coincidence. Mike realizes that Sulley, his partner and now best friend, had made this happen, which meant two things. One, that Sulley did not believe Mike could be a great scarer, and two, that Mike had actually not managed to scare anyone. Faced with this, Mike makes a really dangerous decision. Go to the human world to prove everyone wrong about him and his abilities. Mike goes to the human world, but the worst happens. He can't scare anyone. Everyone thinks he is an adorable creature. Now, Mike is extremely sad and discouraged. Sulley goes to the human world for Mike, and when they return, Dean Hardscrabble has to expel them for breaking the rules by going to the human world. When they leave the university, Hardscrabble catches up with them and congratulates them for all the work they have done. She says they really surprised her and she hopes they continue to do so. Thus, expelled from the university, Mike and Sulley see an advertisement for the company Monsters Inc. and decide to apply for the vacancy in the company's mailroom. And from there, they advance in their career in the company until both become one of the best scare teams at Monsters Inc., with Sulley being the scarer and Mike being his right-hand man. And that is what's surprising about this movie. Mike did not become a scarer, he did not reach his dream, or at least not as he had dreamed it. However, without him, Sulley would never have been so good in his profession. This movie is great because it teaches us a tough lesson. Sometimes, no matter how much we try, we are not going to be able to achieve some of our dreams and goals. It's tough, especially because all the movies usually show us that always we can achieve the impossible if we just set our minds to it. However, although we would like it to be that way, reality does not work like that. This movie teaches us that sometimes it is not good to cling to a dream, but we must learn to discover our true skills and passions, even if this means modifying our our original dream, and there is nothing wrong with this. On the contrary, Mike was not born with the physical qualities that a scarer needs, and he could not change this reality. But this did not make him abandon his dreams completely. Instead, it led him to evolve his original dream. And it was thanks to this understanding and this evolution that Mike managed to become one of the best scare teams in history, because now, in this new dream, he was using his true skills and had the abilities to achieve great things, and he was happy with this new dream. Sometimes we have to give in to certain circumstances, but we also have to keep fighting against others, and true greatness lies in our ability to discern when it is appropriate to take each of these actions.